Hey guys, Dylan Tommy here. I'd like to do a long overdue update of the green room. There's been several changes in all these tanks. I've moved tanks around and things in here are looking a lot different than the last update. So I'd like to cruise and we'll just check some things out tonight like I usually do. The first thing to mention is that I moved my albino paradise fish down here next to Mojo. I moved the entire tank. And with that, took a lot of the fish that was in this tank and kind of spread them out throughout the fish room. A couple of the blood fins ended up in the 55 gallon. I actually have some new additions in there too, so some silver tips. So that tank's looking a lot fuller lately. And I've also added from that tank all the Danios. So I have both the leopards and all the zebra Danios now in this tank. And this is a thriving tank. This tank's really coming together. I mean, we got some thick vegetation and a really cool look with the tank filling out with all these fish. I like to see a tank, really come together with the perfect amount of stock and the vegetation growing in right, and really loving how this tank's coming out. But I will keep cruising. The transition and the growth of the large planet tank is moving along very slowly. Like I said, I've added these new fish, and we got all the swords and the Ludwigia and all great growth on this side. But if you remember, my crypts, my red Wendetti die off, has stabilized, and if you see, I'm really getting great reds in this new plant. But just they're slow growers, and I'm not getting the fast growth I would hope for to fill this area, which is okay. I mean, I'm not in a rush. Also, I have some baby tears. Someone had given me some baby tears, so I decided just to throw them in here, and they're really long stems. I've left them real long just so they have a firm foundation and are able to get down into that substrate and really root out so they can spread. But I just decided to stick them in the tank, stick them right along this Amazon sword runner, and maybe it'll grow right over it. But we'll see. I've never kept baby tears in this tank, and we'll see how they do. Like I said, I've left them really long just so they can adjust to the tank and really root out. But that's the large planet tank. It's doing great. I'm loving the species in this tank. The extra fish has really filled it out. The rams are looking great, and all the tetras are starting to school and look a lot cooler with the additional fish. The shrimp tank is another tank that I had just cleared so much plants out of. I mean, I had this wisteria growing all over this tank. I decided to take portions off it and add it to other tanks. I added some of it to my Tanganyikan tank. I also added some of the wisteria to Mojo's tank. Mojo previously had nothing but moss in his tank. This piece of driftwood over here was just covered in moss, and what I did was added some lush green wisteria, and I just like the look better. It brightens up the tank, and he's such a cool fish. Like I said, these two guys, Mr. Mojo and this albino paradise fish, are gonna spend some time right next door to each other. They're very cool, yin and yang species to keep right down here. Both anabantoids, both living in densely planted tanks. Well, let's check out the other shrimp tank. I pulled a lot of plants out of here too. It had some lush wisteria runners that I just cleared from this tank, allow more light to kind of penetrate down here onto the moss. This broadleaf sword that you kind of see stuck into the substrate here, it's actually something I just picked up recently and kind of just stuck it in that tank to acclimate. All these tanks are rocking. The tanks that I really haven't done much with are these tanks that are just kind of housing my moss for now. We'll check out the crebensis. This tank has definitely been through significant changes because I removed a lot of the rotala. I added a bit more substrate as far as fine gravel, and this tank is really starting to establish too. As far as breeding, they've stopped. Definitely since the rescape. and I just haven't seen any of that behavior since. But all 7 of the tiny little albino crebensis fry are still living in here, growing and thriving nicely. And with the addition of the new lighter substrate, they blend in a lot better. I notice it is often, a little harder to find them with this new white rock in the tank. But they're in there and they're doing very well. I think they're great. I'm just not sure what I'm going to do with them. Grow them out in this tank and we'll see. I didn't want to disrupt the parents' courtship or anything like that, but I enjoy raising out these fry in this tank. But we'll see. They're rocking and rolling and the tank's looking really good, so I'm not going to mess with it too much. Haven't done much of anything in the guppy tank, kind of just letting them grow out, do their thing. I told you that I'm really happy about the potential this guppy tank has with the amount of females in here and the cool patterns in the males. I mean, seeing all these fish and this colony grow from 2 fish is just, a great fish keeping experience. So I'm very happy with the guppies. Check out this gold guy. He's so much different than everybody else. I don't know if he's an albino. I don't even know if that's a male or female yet. It's hard to tell, but very cool fish. Like I said, totally different than all the other guppies in the tank. And that's the cool part, is just, melding these genetics and seeing what you get. I enjoy it. Very cool fish to keep, just with that aspect of it. But they're the guppies. They keep rolling. I'm gonna hit the Tanganyikan tank and we'll call it an update. I made some changes in this tank, added a bit more substrate like the other tanks. I also decided to try something here. You see up here I have some floating Rotala, and what I do is I kind of have their stems, wrapped in a small wire and attached magnetically to that mag float, and they're just floating there. And I think it's a great surface plant to kind of just hang on the top of the tank. It's just added to the habitat. It's blocked the light just enough to have this tank stabilize, and this tank's just doing so well. I added another sword to this tank, if you see right here, that broadleaf sword way in the back, and we'll see how it does. It's only been in here less than a week, so it's still in the middle of its acclimation process. But the tank's rocking and rolling, large wisteria, like usual. That's how I keep this tank. And we get the Pashardis doing their thing. They're always spooked when I come into the room. But let's take a look. Off they go. With all the thick vegetation nowadays, it's so easy for them to hide. I love to see them comfortable in the thick vegetation, feeling secure, feeling like they have, plants to hide behind and shells to dive into. It just, for me, I notice them coming out more and exhibiting cooler behaviors because they feel safer. But a cool tank and no fatalities yet. The 6 Tanganyikans are still living harmoniously in here for now. Alright guys, wanted to let you take a look at the tank. Like I said, hadn't made it a GreenRoom update in a while, and I just moved so many things, and these tanks definitely look a lot different than the last time I updated this fish room. Here's the tank that I had pulled out of where I got the albino paradise fish now. It's had a little bit of maintenance, some changes. I added some rock work. I actually added some red cherry shrimp to this tank, and we'll see what happens. The only guy left in here is a little algae eater. He's cool. He's just kind of hanging out. But thanks for hanging, guys. I appreciate you cruising the fish room with me. I like to keep you updated. Lots of things change, and I don't often post an update, so it's good to say, hey, this is what's going on. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Appreciate all the support, all the love. Aquatics forever. You guys rock. Tank on. Peace.